Morning, everybody. Can sound okay? Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. I think the flow coming into the room has just steadied off, so I'll bring us to start now. Thank you so much for coming, especially so early after last night's dinner. I hope you all had a lovely evening. So we're here to talk about all things skills and innovation in KE and about the value of embedding skills within your KE strategy. So for those of you who don't know us, we're NCB. We're the National Centre for Universities and Businesses, and we work to make the UK the best place for university business collaboration. We've been around for 10 years. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. And we are Research England funded and also through university business membership, university and business sponsorship. So we're here to talk about the value of skills within knowledge exchange, and it's so good to see so many people here to talk about the skills discussion. We're going to hear from some really, really good panellists about what they're doing within the skills space. So first up, I'll introduce the panel before we go to them in a bit. But first off today, we're going to have Becky Bailey from Exeter University. She's here to speak to us about the university's executive education work. Then we'll move to Anna Hastie and Rebecca Dodgson from the University of York. They'll be sharing about how they're working with local businesses and governments to fill local skills gaps. And then we'll have Vicky Pargeter, who is here from Birmingham University, talking about the new and exciting digital skills projects within Birmingham, which seeks to develop a new digital skills and innovation district within the city. So I hope you agree it's going to be a really interesting conversation, and it would be great to see all of the different skills projects that are happening around the UK. So a little bit of housekeeping. Each is going to present for 15 minutes, and then we'll keep all questions back, and we'll have a 30-minute Q&A at the end. So keep your questions in mind, and please note them down, because it'll be a really interesting discussion. So before we hear from each of our presenters, I wanted to share a bit of a project. It's our new skills flagship project at NCB. It's a really exciting project that we're working on, and I think there'll be kind of a lot of parallels across universities that people can take from this. So I'm going to run through it. It's called the Research and Mobility Task Force. We're kind of, at the moment, developing a name, so any ideas, please come to us at the end. But first off, I'm going to set the scene with some policy around what's going on in the skills sphere. So we know that the UK has a skills problem. The latest data shows that there's really good employment in the UK, so 75%, and there's only around 3.7% unemployment. So it's really low, and that's really comparable to kind of the US and the EU. But there's also really high numbers of vacancies across sectors, and particularly within STEM and innovation sectors. There's more than 1 million vacancies across the UK at the moment, and they're often clustered within innovation sectors. So the Federation of Small Businesses recently ran a survey, and nearly 80% of small businesses have struggled to recruit in the past year. That's quite a shocking stat, I think. And there's particularly an issue within a lot of the industries that we engage with and across our industry partners. So within manufacturing, there are around 100,000 vacancies over the summer of last year. And then looking at digital skills, we now know that 90% of all of the jobs that are on the market, including the ones that we do every day, require digital skills of some sort, which slightly concerns me sometimes. But the divide in digital skills compared to the digital skills that people have across the economy means that we are at risk of losing 63 billion a year in lost GDP. So this skills gap is really concerning, and we're doing lots of work to try and fill it. So why is there an issue? But it's in part due to kind of limited skill supply from overseas post-Brexit and kind of, limited immigration in and out of the UK. But also due to skill supply demand issues post-COVID-19, where lots of skills and demand for them changed, and also largely due to the rapid advancement of technology as people try to develop skills to keep up with the rate of development. But why is this an issue? It is a really big issue for our economy because it's really important to to have the right skills to meet the UK science superpower ambitions. I know Professor Dame, Jessica Corner, mentioned this in our opening speech yesterday about the kind of role as the UK as a science superpower, and it's a really important thing, not just for kind of the buzzword and strap word for the UK, but also to meet UK economic potential. And kind of keep university research the highest of the league tables UK-wide, to keep businesses growing and innovating, and also so that we can have the right skills to create spin-outs and scale-ups. This is key for all kind of our global challenges, such as meeting the greening economy targets and net zero, so it's really crucial for us to fix it. So the question is, how do we solve some of these challenges that I've outlined? Well, there's been repeated calls to make more of the workforce that we do have. So this has been a feature of quite a few of the big strategies that have come out over the last few years. I often think that when you read this, it risks us kind of looking like this and speaking to an empty table and saying, well, we need to make more from less. But there's actually a really, really important role for how we use the people within our system. And getting some cross-sector mobility will be a really, really key role and a solution to share knowledge and skills. So that is the challenge that we're facing, and so we've been endorsed by Research England to investigate this issue and see how we can better use the people within the skills and innovation system to increase kind of knowledge exchange, skill sharing, to plug the skills gap. So we've brought together leaders from across the following businesses and universities to explore this issue and think about solutions for the sector. We have 5 core objectives as a task force, collectively called the Mobility Task Force, and these are generally to move beyond the general characterisation that mobility across the sector of highly skilled people is good, to actually understand what value they create and how we can unlock that further. And then for the first time, explore and count how researchers move across their careers, across sectors, to explore what the barriers are to that and how we can unlock that for them. And then there's huge differences both regionally and cross-sector. So we're breaking this down by those factors to be able to explore exactly what kind of tailored solutions we'll have for some sectors. And then we're also looking at the number of different mobility schemes that exist. There's a lot of really, really great practice out there, both in the UK and overseas, that we're going to take a look at and explore, and how we can scale that up to support the UK economy. And then we'll come on to recommendations. So I'll share a bit of this later and share emerging findings with you now, but we'll be producing a number of limited recommendations to support the skills supply and people mobility across the system. So just a little bit on kind of what we're doing, how we're going to do this, and I'll run through this quite quickly because I know the most interesting thing is always the emerging findings. But there's a real data issue within this space, and we have some data that we're patching together to try to create that image of research mobility. So you'll see the 3 different strands here. So we're using ORCID data, which many of you within the HE sector might be familiar with. That's effectively the academic LinkedIn. The NCB's own business motivation survey that looks at university business interactions, and we ran that with Cambridge University a few years back. And then the R&I Workforce Survey, which was a really, really interesting piece of data that for the first time maps the demographic of people working across innovation, not just in the public sector, but also in the private sector. So we're going to be taking all of that data and supplementing it with some really fascinating interviews, and I see around the room some people that we've interviewed, so I imagine some eagle eyes are going to be looking at the findings a bit later on. So we are engaging with universities, businesses and researchers to explore exactly why they are mobile across sectors, the benefits that brings to them and the challenges that they face. And this has been really, really interesting because there's really big differences between different types of organisation and people. And then lastly, we're partnering with Technopolis, who have a lot of kind of sector-leading knowledge in the space, to look at all of the different schemes, as I mentioned, and explore the benefits of them. And that's both internationally and in the UK. So the big question, what have we learned so far? And these are emerging findings, and they are subject to change as we're still kind of coming to the end of our data collection. But so far, we've learned that there's a lot of value in mobility, and mobility happens different types. So lots of these things you'll be really familiar with, but we're working towards a typology. So often you'll be familiar with someone joining your sector from another, or leaving to go to another sector. There's kind of part-time and fixed-term placements within a different role or sector. Dual contracts, working for 2 places at once. Partnering or collaborating on a project, so you bring together those skills in one place. And then the kind of cross-sector sectoral nature of spin-outs from universities, and then co-locating, which is a really interesting way of kind of sharing knowledge within spaces. And lastly, honorary positions and fellowships, etc., which kind of draw people in from different fields. So we've learnt that all of these things are valuable for the skills space, and that they are valued, and often we found evidence that they actually then link to better business outcomes. They give the kind of host and institute that someone's left from access to research skills, and they really, really support the skills development of the person who moves across or moves into a collaboration project. So far, so good. However, we have seen that there has been a lack of a definition around this, and it's unsurprising because mobility in itself is something that it's not really something you do. It's more of a means to an end to be able to get access to the right people for your project. So it's unsurprising that it isn't kind of strategized or within kind of the frameworks of how we work. There's also some fears around losing staff and resilience around that. So what we have seen is that when it does happen, it can often be subconscious, and people, organisations can gain people from across the sector without kind of really understanding the value that can bring. So as it isn't within strategy, this can risk losing the benefits. When we make the strategic, we'll be able to then tap into the networks those people bring and really, really gain the full potential from that move. We've also learned that there's different changes, there's different challenges rather, at different career stages. That's the push-pull factors that either limit you being able to move into a new role or organisation or cross sectors, or kind of keep you where you are. So any support that could and should be there for those people are lost without the strategy. And actually, many of the schemes that we do have support those at early career, when we know that it's those in the middle career that are the least likely to move roles. And then lastly, in bold, underlined, is the kind of the personal nature of how this often works. And this is a real, has the potential to be a real EDI issue, as often if you know the people within the sector, they're able to open doors when really we know it should be a level playing field for opportunity. Some more of the findings show that actually the schemes that we have, that support is really, really valuable when it is there. However, we've seen the most successful schemes are those that are long-term and high-scale, probably quite unsurprising. But actually, a lot of the UK schemes tend to be relatively small, often sector-specific. And they work really, really well within the kind of either region or the sector that they're in. But there's a huge potential there for us to be able to capitalise on that and kind of elevate them. And also, when we think kind of 2 moves ahead, how can we de-risk it for someone? How can we create some role models or some pathways to make it so people aren't scared to take a move across sector from academia to industry, knowing that they then can't come back later? So all this to frame the discussion today. So it's clear that actually when we think about the knowledge assets that people have and how they move around the system, share that knowledge, it's really, really valuable and should and is within KE. But having that forefront of strategy and within best practice is incredibly valuable. So that was the emerging findings. I'd be absolutely delighted to hear comments and questions, but we'll leave them to the end session, where we'll have the half-an-hour Q&A. But for now, just to say, we're really, really keen to hear everybody's thoughts. This is a project that's for the sector, by the sector, and it's about moving people within your organisations around the system. So it's really something we want to hear from you on. We have the 3 strands of evidence that I ran through briefly. They're all going to have their own evidence reports, and they'll be published within coming months. And then we'll be publishing a policy report in September, an in-person launch in London, and we'd be delighted to see as many of you there as possible. And then, of course, it will be an ongoing beast. So your support for our campaigns, engagement, and influence would be really invaluable. So that's the project in a nutshell, but it frames the discussions here really nicely. So with that, I want to invite comment, and we'll save that for the discussion. And now we'll move on to our first speaker. So I'd like to welcome Becky Bailey of Exeter University.
Thank you, Danny. Welcome, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here today. I'm going to talk to you about the executive education at the University of Exeter Business School. We hear a lot of different terminology, professional education, CPD, executive education, so I'm going to try and demystify a little bit of that for you now. So the school has been delivering exec ed for around 5 years or so now. Our activity has grown organically through existing relationships with business. Features of these include informed by business needs, designed by academics and industry experts, typically non-credit bearing. So what that means is that we work with participants, not students. They don't have the same standing, same status as a student. Building upon existing knowledge and skills, and what we are really certain about is exec ed is not consultancy. That is a completely different area of knowledge exchange. And the programmes which we deliver are flexible and can vary in length and time for study. There are numerous benefits for business in participating in exec ed. They address real business challenges. You can share insights with other professionals. It's an opportunity to expand your networks, broaden knowledge understanding. You can take competitive advantage by undertaking exec ed. You can help to redefine your organisational strategies and goals, enabling greater organisational agility and future-proofing, whilst can be fully customised and tailored. So, our exec ed offer at the business school is centred around 3 pillars of expertise. And whilst the university is developing an exec ed offer, the business school is seen as a trailblazer. And I'm just going to play 3 very short clips for you now, just to give you a little bit of insight as to what our 3 pillars of expertise are around our exec ed offer. Very small clip there, but I do believe you will be getting these slides, so you can click on, or if you like to, you can click onto Business School Expertise, where you can learn more about environmental sustainability and the work that we're doing in that arena. So that's environmental sustainability. So we believe that business has a crucial role in tackling the global economic climate emergency and endeavours to impact positive change in the region and worldwide. Our commitment to sustainability and climate action is embedded in all aspects of our work, from research, teaching and outreach. Responsible leadership. Of drums going on here. We're hoping to expand that, so a little bit small, but hopefully you get the idea and you will have the opportunity to take that later. So our New World Leadership approach is driven by sustainable development and social responsibility. It seeks to promote more than an organisation's economic and financial objectives, encouraging leaders to protect and develop the resources entrusted to them by society. everyone's head isn't too drummy after last night's gala dinner. And finally, we move on to technological transformation, our third pillar of expertise. We are re-imaging business in a digital age, aligning our ideas and innovations with new business processes, culture and customer experiences. We aim to meet the needs of a global marketplace that is no longer defined by geography, but by networks and connections. The drums have nearly finished. So what it's saying there is businesses can no longer be reactive, we need to be more proactive. Shape the future responsibly. Thank you. So our executive education programmes can be classified in two main ways. So we've got our off-the-shelf programmes that are open programmes, a couple of examples there, and also custom bespoke programmes which are tailored specifically for a single client. I will now give you a case study for each of those types. So our first one, the Circular Economy Masterclass. Developed jointly with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the Circular Economy Masterclass is a 6-week online open programme. It has been specifically designed for individuals who already have familiarity with circular economy principles and initiatives. Launched in 2018, over 2,000 participants have completed the programme. These have been from a broad range of global businesses, government agencies, startups and NGOs. We work with leaders and future leaders of organisations across the globe through this programme. Delivered on a leading collaborative platform, all participants can access and complete the programme regardless of time zone. Mentors support participants on a one-to-one basis, providing feedback on activities and their action plans. We deliver webinars and updates to maintain collaboration and learning, and we use LinkedIn to do so. We collect information about how impactful our programmes are. The Masterclass provides a network for collaboration. The action plans that result support changes towards circular economy practices. The Masterclass also reinforces individual career choices towards circular economy and sustainability. And this second programme, this is a live example of a custom-built programme for a single global client based on their specific organisational needs. And it's a descriptive title. Sustainability Solutions Leadership Development Programme says exactly what it does. Our client for this particular programme is a global leader in consultancy, technological services and digital transformation. As their clients plan for net zero carbon emissions by 2050, they must develop their skills in leading sustainable change. We have developed a bespoke programme aimed to help our clients stay ahead of the game in bringing different areas and aspects of sustainability into the boardroom. It equips consultants with the knowledge and confidence to address complex topics for their clients. The delivery model is a combination of in-person and online, so it's a hybrid model. Through a series of 13 masterclasses delivered by 12 of our leading researchers. These were complemented by a series of workshops, activities and challenges. There was real positive engagement and enthusiasm from the client and our academic delivery team. We did co-develop and deliver this programme. The spirit of collaboration was strong from planning to conclusion. The programme built a solid foundation for knowledge for applying sustainability solutions in a client setting. So that just gives you a little bit of a flavour of the executive education which we offer at the University of Exeter Business School. If you'd like to find out any more, do visit our web pages, visit the University of Exeter Business School, and my contact details are there as well if you wish to follow up with me after the sessions. Thank you very much, and I'll hand you back to Danny.
Thank you so much, Becky. It was great to hear about all of the really exciting programmes that you're running there, and it's great to hear how the university is using kind of skills to get to the top of businesses to make that change. So next, we welcome up from the University of York, Rebecca Dodson and Anna Hastie, and they're here to talk to us about building business relationships, and it's from the regional perspective. So welcome.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Anna Hastie, and I work in the CPD unit at the University of York, and this is my colleague Rebecca Dodson, and we're going to do a bit of a double header. So I'm just going to do a little bit of an introduction, then pass over to Rebecca, and then I'll come back on at the end. What we're going to try and do today is just give you a bit of a snapshot of the University of York's approach to working regionally on skills and workforce development. It's something that we feel is very important in our KE strategy and how we work with businesses. And we've been working in this area for a long time, but we've got quite a few lessons that we've learned that we'd like to talk to you about as well, and how we're looking at the future. So I'm going to hand over to Rebecca in the first place, and then I'll be back on in a bit.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to start off looking at the sort of high-level strategic approach, how this work fits with the university strategy, and then I'm going to give you some kind of concrete case study examples of what we've done. So the University of York has recently developed a new strategy, and this strategy very clearly states us as a university for public good, which has gone down really well with all the staff at the university generally, because we really feel like it kind of fits with the values of our university community. And there are 4 strategic aims in the strategy. I won't read them out, you can see them there. And the work of the CPD unit kind of goes across all of the aims really in different ways. But the one we're talking about today really is that number 3, the local commitment on a global scale. So the work we do regionally fits with that strategic aim of the university. And the outcome that fits with that aim is securing an economically sustainable future for our region and beyond. So what we're doing really is, our part is really developing the skills and the workforce in the businesses to enable those businesses to grow, which in turn enables the local economy to grow, and then we get all of the benefits that go with that. So now I'm going to give you some concrete examples. I'm going to play you a clip from this first video, and then I'll explain what it's about.
So I'm Bethany Watrous, Director of Experience Heritage. Experience Heritage is based in York, and at Experience Heritage we bring history to life by using digital media to tell stories of the past in dynamic ways, doing 3D modeling, augmented reality, virtual reality, and mobile applications and videos. I think it's really cool to see how the graduate students come in and bring new ideas. They always have fresh views on different problems than we do, because we've been looking at the problem from one perspective, and they come and look at it and always seem to have some suggestion that we wouldn't have thought of because we've been too close to it for too long. And they can teach me different things that I didn't know before, which is awesome.
My name's Andrew Ferguson. I'm Head of Student Opportunities at the
Just showing you a clip of that one, we don't have time for the full thing today. So that video comes from a European funded project that we did in conjunction with Calderdale College. And there were 3 strands to that project, and the first one is what that video is talking about, which was a collaboration with our careers department that tried to kind of replicate the graduate programmes, graduate schemes that you get in big employers, but for SMEs who wouldn't normally have the resources to be able to give that kind of support to their graduate recruits. And there were 2 other strands to that programme. One was about supporting businesses with an issue of ageing workforce, so it was about succession planning and mentoring. And the third strand was about supporting businesses to pivot to around changing markets, getting into different marketplaces. And that was particularly pertinent, obviously, post-COVID. And really that whole programme was about addressing issues that businesses were telling the LEP that they were having. That it was the LEP saying, you know, this is what you've said that you have issues with, and these are some programmes that can help you. And then I'll just show the next video, if the could play it from the back.
We're seeing different approaches that some of our existing managers wouldn't normally take in getting out on site, spending time with the staff. It's been really, really positive to see.
For me, the biggest piece of success that's come from it is absolutely about focusing on the small things to get greater impact on the business.
We've had fantastic feedback on this course from attendees. We've now run it 4 times. They really appreciate the wealth of tools and techniques that they can take away and use in their different settings.
The training just gave us an opportunity to sit back and have a look at the bigger picture.
Museums are often urged to be more innovative, but there isn't always training available to specifically develop them in those areas. Very often museum staff don't come from a commercial or management background.
A lot of the supervisors are quite new to line management. Some have come from different businesses, different parts of the business. So I wouldn't say inconsistency, but certainly different approaches to doing things and perhaps a lack of confidence in the approach that they took.
It provided us with an effective toolkit that really helped us drill down into the decision-making process.
The trainer's been engaging, the staff have felt part of a team, they've felt heard.
That people are able to take away the knowledge and learning from the courses and apply it in their own organisations in myriad ways.
The University of York were great to work with. They were really supportive, both in terms of administration, but ultimately through enthusiasm.
Great to communicate with, really responsive, incredibly helpful.
I'd recommend any business owner to get in touch with the University of York and consider coming on one of their courses, particularly those business owners who struggle to find the time to step out of the business and try and think a bit more strategically.
So that video gives you a bit more of a general flavour of a lot of the support that we offer to local businesses. And I love that video because it makes me feel really proud. It makes me feel proud of my team and the things we've done. And we know the people in that video, and it's great to hear them talking about the difference that the working with us has made for them. So yeah, that was just a kind of general flavour. And then... Yep, sorry. And then another example I wanted to mention is about our work with kind of larger employers in the region. And this is where Portakabin is the example. And Portakabin, they manufacture modular buildings, so they make them on site and then deliver them to where they're needed. They're a great local employer. They're really successful. They're a big employer of people in our area. And we've worked with them for several years. We've done a range of different leadership and management programs with them. And one of the things I want to point out, the kind of challenges of that long-term relationship is over time there's change. So there's been change in terms of the staffing, in terms of structures, in terms of strategy, both at Portakabin and at the University of York. But we've managed to maintain that relationship through those changes and over that time. And it's been really productive. And it's led to other things in the university. So they're taking on internships, and we're currently talking to them around projects around digital twinning and innovation, and looking at how we can integrate that partnership into more different areas of the university. And then another example is this picture is from York Business Festival, formerly known as York Business Week, but they do love a festival in York. We've got a festival for everything. So this is a collaborative event across the city led by the council and businesses. And we've been involved with it for several years since the inception of it. And last year we did an event on diversifying recruitment. But what's key about that event and about our whole involvement in the festival is that it's not about us selling to businesses. It's not about us telling businesses this is what we can do. It's about us genuinely trying to be helpful to businesses, trying to put on things that they care about and interested in. And it's about us listening to what the businesses want and what the businesses are interested in and are talking about. And it's about us working with partners and not being precious about this is my bit. And, you know, it's about us working together, and it's about a collaboration. And we really enjoy those events. We get a lot from those events. We build new connections, we build relationships, and further work does come from it down the line. But it's not about selling on the day. It's about that collaboration and that listening and that being useful to the businesses in the local area. And then on that, I will hand over to Anna.
Thank you very much. Right, sorry, back to me. So I'm going to do a bit about how, so they were great examples. And as Rebecca said, I'm really proud of the team for the impact we make on our regional businesses. And so what I want to talk about was a bit about the how. So how do we do this? Now, one of the ways that we have found this really works is to build the relationship with our council and our LEPs. And I'm sure that's not news to a lot of you in this room. And it's not always easy. But over the years, especially with York City Council, they've got a skills team. We've made real efforts to work with them very closely to be able to not only deliver funded programmes with them, but as Rebecca showed there, run events with them. We also have something in York, which is Hire York, which is a collaboration between the two HE providers in the city and FE and the council. And we've worked with them to develop a strategy, a skills strategy for the city. And being at that table to influence those conversations is really important to enable us to then go down to the operational delivery as well. And it's something I really enjoy doing personally, and the team really enjoy working with the people at the council. We also worked with them quite closely around some COVID response work. So when COVID hit, they sort of came to us and said, "Ooh, we really need to help our businesses." So very quickly, we put together some online courses, and we delivered those with great success and great feedback. And we've continued to keep those online as well for the businesses in the region. LEPs, I think, are really important, obviously. They're driving funding, they're driving strategy. And I think, for me, it's about maintaining those relationships and helping them with things like reports and insights. So they come to us quite a bit. We've just had one recently where they're doing a report around green skills. So they've come to us to ask some questions. We've tried to introduce them to academics and people to give them some more insight, to really embed our views in the strategy that is coming out of the LEP around skills. So some of the strategies we use, this isn't always easy engaging regionally. As in York, as I'm sure many regions, we're very rural. We have a lot, I think it's like 89% SMEs and micros. So that makes that engagement piece very hard because there's lots and lots of multiple businesses. It takes a lot of time. SMEs obviously don't have time themselves. So what we try and do is promote the entire university offer so that they're getting lots out of that one relationship, and they will engage a lot easier. We go to regional networks a lot. We've done it for years. Amanda sat here in the audience. She did it before me a lot. We're quite well known within the region. What we found recently is really targeted marketing. There's a temptation just to do a flyer or do some social media, put it out there. Actually, we have started to really try and target groups of SMEs or businesses themselves and try and have those personal conversations and really find out what the business challenges are and understand them, rather than just, as a university, I think temptation is to go, we've got this course, do you want it? I think finding out what their business challenges and how we can react to them is a better way to engage with them. This one is really, really important to me. Excellent customer service. I really pride ourselves in our team on our excellent customer service. We have customer first accreditation. In all our skills provision, all our courses, and especially regionally, we react quickly, we do great key account management, and we have relationships that we've built up over a very, very long time. And that's led to us having a really good reputation, I think, for being able to support our businesses through skills development in the workforce. Lessons learned. As I said, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. That idea of, as I've already said, around there being a lot of SMEs does make it difficult. It takes serious time and marketing effort sometimes, and getting savvy about how to do that is really important. I think we've learned some hard lessons sometimes, I think it's fair to say, about partnering with organisations around funding bids, especially on one particular one that Rebecca mentioned. We weren't the lead, and I think it's sometimes hard to, we knew what we wanted to do, but being led on a funding bid can sometimes sort of limit you slightly. I think regionally we're winning that perception of the ivory tower. We do still have, that idea from SMEs and micros that, why would we come to training for a university? It's not for us. But I think, over time, we're really breaking down those barriers. And I put this one on the end, and difficulty engaging academics with SMEs. That is not strictly true across the board. But I think it's not necessarily also that they don't want to engage with SMEs. It's sometimes around capacity and the time that they have, but it's also understanding the benefits for them. We've had quite a lot of success with some of our academics doing training and CPD courses that have led to sort of like research impact. And I think that's a really good hook for academics. So my last slide, the future. As we all know, the future in terms of funding is not as obvious as it might be in some sections. We are in York and North Yorkshire, I think Nottingham mentioned this yesterday, we're just going through devolution. We don't know what the mayoral priorities will be for the new authority, and therefore we don't really know where the funding is going to take us. But what we need to make sure we're doing is at that table for those discussions. So when all the skills funding comes out, skills project, we're sort of front and centre in certain areas. SPF funding, we all know, certainly in York and North Yorkshire, it's not that much money. There's a lot of people fighting over it. So our approach to that is going to be to look at really specific areas, things like green skills, creative industries, where we know we can really make a difference, and probably do fairly small projects realistically. So that's going to be interesting. I think more collaboration for us with the larger businesses as well. I think we need to engage our larger employers and their supply chain more, and think about how we can build those networks between the SMEs and the larger businesses, so that we're helping grow the workforce across the region. EU funding always led us to SMEs, and then we do exec development programmes with larger companies. How can we bring those together more? And I think the big one for me at the moment is focus. I think we've always done a lot, and I think, again, funding drove that. We need to focus more on sectors and expertise. And we're doing a piece of work in the university at the moment looking at what those sectors are going to be, so probably like green skills, health, creative industries, trying to really drive those down so people are more aware of what we're here to deliver for them, how we can support them in what areas. So I'll just finish on saying really that I really feel quite strongly, and I feel really supported by the university in this at the moment, that skills and training are really part of the wider KE portfolio. And I think the more we can embed that, the more we can lead on to those other, building those relationships in consultancy, contract research. And for me, that's where the future lies in the skills and the regional skills development. I hope that was helpful. We will be doing questions after the end.
Thank you both. It's really great to hear about the successes within the region, and also some of the lessons learned, because I think as practitioners we'll probably all recognise some of those things. So invite you all to keep your questions in mind, take note, because there will be half an hour of Q&A afterwards. So we're now staying local but moving to the Midlands, and it's great to hear from Vicky Pagetta about the Digital Futures project in the city of Birmingham. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Yes, as
colleagues have said, this is a very regional project that we're working on, so and quite exciting, bit different from other things, or we think it is. We'll be challenged by others if you know of similar projects. In fact, it'd be great because we'd like to connect. But yeah, so Birmingham Digital Futures. So I sit in our newly formed Business Engagement and Research Impact team at the University of Birmingham, which is part of the newly formed Research Strategy and Services Division. So traditionally, our business engagement team was set up, like a lot of other teams, just to focus on research income and partnerships for the purposes of collaborative research. So we have had a little bit of pushback as to why we're getting involved in the skills space. And I know other teams and departments are set up to have CPD aligned with their core BD work, but we don't at UOB currently. But this was really a project that started by listening to our customer needs. And there was also a bit of a special effect, I guess, that sort of drove it as well, in that we were just about to open our lovely new exchange building in the centre of town in Centenary Square. So those that know Birmingham, it's right in the heart of the business district. The purpose of that building for us, even though we're only a couple of miles out of the city centre in leafy Edgbaston and we have our own train station, that's still enough of a barrier for people not to come and visit and engage with us. So this was our flagship building in the city centre. Next to us are one of our partners, HSBC, who people will know have relocated their UK head office there. And across the way was PwC, another big partner of ours. So the Vice-Chancellor at the time, Professor Sir David Eastwood, CEO of HSBC UK and the Regional Chair of PwC came together as existing partners and said, what can we do collaboratively as new neighbours to help our city region? What are the gaps that we collaboratively can fill? And with an eye on the Commonwealth Games, which were very successful for our region last year, what can we do to help with the impact and the legacy of that? And skills was always going to be a key theme running through the Games. But where they came to, they wanted a place-based initiative. And I'm just going to flag, this conversation happened December 19. So just think about the timeline here. So they decided we would create an innovation district based around the BPFS sector. Great. Before we'd all decided who within the various organisations was going to probably lead on this programme of activity, the pandemic hit and everybody left the city centre. So a place-based initiative was obviously put on hold. What we did instead was flip the offer and we looked at an immediate need and how we could help our region. And that was very clear after doing some research, digital skills. That was the thing that could have the most significant impact for business and the economy, if we could interject. So it really is about listening to the needs of the region, of our business partners. So it's been very reactive in that respect. And we believe, and I think others have already touched on this, that by looking at skills, we are building the foundation blocks for innovation. If you haven't got the skill set, we all know innovation and inward investment and everything else just won't flow through. So really building on that foundation. I'm not going to read all these stats out to you, and Danny very eloquently talked to the challenge that the nation has, that the globe has, and in particular the region of Birmingham and West Midlands have around the digital skills gap. It is huge. Every business now could call itself a digital business. And to succeed in a career in future, whether you want to work in healthcare, environment, retail, arts, humanities, to thrive in future, what we're telling young people is you need to have a core set of digital skills because everything is digital. But my stats are slightly tweaked from the figure you gave earlier, Danny, but you can get a sense of, it's digital skills are worth, if we don't get it right, it's a loss of 50 billion. But if we do get it right, it's an opportunity of us gaining £50 billion worth towards the economic, towards the UK economy growth, basically. So that's why we've honed in on this. The other thing I should just point out, that the project has got at its heart the ambition to improve social mobility for our city region. So we live and work in a very diverse region. Many of the corporates that we are speaking to, and that's across SME right up to the big blue chip corporations, so they really struggle to engage with a lot of the population. We've got a hugely, hugely diverse population in Birmingham. But our employer partners are telling us that their workforce, it's just not mirroring the local population that they are representing. It's not representative. So part of this project is about raising aspirations as well and improving those social outcomes. So yeah, this is, as I said, a project responding to our partner needs, as well as to key government investment strategies, and also that of our local authority, our combined authority, who we're working closely with. And we've realised it was a bit of a Pandora's box. So this project, we were starting it all during the pandemic. Once you scratch under the surface, there's a lot of people doing really good work in skills, really, really good work. And we don't want to come in and replicate that or, duplicate it. We're trying to bring it all together into one coherent user journey, really, and inspire people to take further qualifications. So what's our solution? We secured some QR funding early in 2022 to go out to the market. We'd been set up during the pandemic. Our first phase of the project was an outreach project within primary and secondary schools across the city region. We have gone as young as 5 in primary, so really young, through to secondary school. And we go out into schools using content from one of our partners, Tech She Can. And it's not about teaching hard skills at this point, it's about inspiring the future generation to take those further qualifications. And that's been really, really successful. But in looking and assessing the kind of need and the opportunity within the region around digital, as I said, we were uncovering all these great projects. So what we've been trying to do is bring them all together and really make it a genuine project for the city, by the city. It's co-created. So the starting point of that discovery into the innovation district on digital skills was the workshops with both policy and industry partners using the QR funding. The overwhelming results from that was that people really felt this was an initiative they could get behind, and that they wanted the university to lead on it, to use our neutral convening power and our civic responsibility. And I think that's a really key point here, is we have been one of the, what we're calling founding partners of this, but this has to be something that is truly collaborative. And that is why we've created this independent brand, BDF. So you're not going to find the UOB logo plastered all over it. And that's for quite a few reasons, really. I mean, one, you were just saying about that ivory tower piece and the kind of people we're trying to target through that. We wanted something, a brand that would resonate. But we also want the other HEIs in the region and other industry, industry partners across all sectors to feel they can come together and get behind this one brand without there being any conflict. So that independent brand is quite important in the project. So how we're setting up the innovation district. So we're sort of flipping a typical innovation district model on its head here. We're not looking for bricks and mortar capital investment, large scale funding coming in from central government here and regeneration programs. We are, as I said, building those foundation blocks. It's skills that we're innovating in. And we are aligning our offer based around the key research strengths, opportunities, and growth areas as highlighted in the region by the combined authority, the growth company and other partners that we're working with. So Centenary Square is still going to be the heart of this project. That's where it's originated from. So that's in the centre of Birmingham, and unsurprisingly, that's where we are going to base our offer for the business professional financial services sector. We are then having spokes. Sorry, I'm a hub and spokes person. I know that doesn't resonate with everyone, but I'm a cyclist, so I'm afraid that's my terminology. We're going out to Tyseley, which is where our energy park is, so digital skills for the green economy. One out to our partners in the Innovation Quarter in Birmingham, so that's with Aston and BCU, looking at digital skills for actual digital companies and tech and startups, so quite technical skills. To Anstey, to our Advanced Manufacturing Technology Centre for digital skills for advanced manufacturing, and our new Birmingham Health Innovation Campus for digital skills for the life sciences. So you can see how we've mapped the offering. So the feedback we'd had from industry partners, it wasn't just generic digital skills that were needed, it was digital skills but with a focus and tailoring for the specific sectors. And just to give you an idea of the governance structure, so obviously we've got a steering group, but what we're proposing in this sort of top tier up here is we create almost like a centralised strategy that then can be tailored for the different markets or industry sectors where you'll have key people. And this is how if you look at the Big Four who've been heavily involved in the project to date and some of our banking partners, by aligning them to a particular industry sector that allows them to come to the table and play and not be concerned about conflict of interest in working with each other. However, I will say, quite genuinely surprised me about this project is because the digital skills gap is so huge, the need is so massive, they are really seeming willing to genuinely come together and work on this in this space anyway. There's the need is so big. They know we've all got to come together on it. Our ambition within each of those areas is to have interventions at key points in a young person or / education, a person's life journey. So we're at the school's outreach piece at the moment, and that's going really well. We're looking at pathways through to FE, and we're partnering with the FE colleges in the region. We haven't got round to looking at what this looks like yet, but the ambition is we will approach a project around NEET, so those that fall through the gaps. Obviously, we're looking at the UG and PG offer, the HE offer, and what we're doing there, pathways through. And then a key one is going to be the CPD and further education. And what we will be doing there is bringing things like the traditional sort of exec ed type programmes, but also more intensive programmes like the boot camp offer that we have, and funded scholarships through that. They're really quick turnaround. They're very responsive to immediate market needs. So, we've worked, for example, with the West Midlands Growth Company on bringing in new businesses to the region, and where the skills and talent's really key to that, we may have a boot camp offer to help them boost that talent pipeline in the region. And then finally, we've also found that there's a gap in the leadership. So there's a piece around leadership training here, and I was talking to somebody at dinner last night about this, because a lot of business leaders, senior business leaders that perhaps been around in their organisation for a little while, as I said, they find themselves suddenly managing a technology company, and it's a very different skill set. It's trying to sort of get them bought in and inform them and educate them about how to manage that business, and also the opportunity that technology and digital is going to afford the company going forward. And I'm really conscious of time, but have I got time to show the video? Can we play the video, please?
We know that in and around this region, in particular in certain parts of Birmingham, there are areas not just of a lack of social mobility, but deprivation in terms of access to technology and skills. So Birmingham Digital Futures is really about starting now making sure that we are focused on developing young people, giving them access to that technology, giving them access to businesses and organisations who are able to help them develop their skills.
It's really important that we work with our industry partners on this project. This is going to be an initiative designed by the city, for the people living here, and to make a difference. It's part of our civic mission as the university to help the city and region to grow, to have a stable economy, and digital skills will be an essential part of that.
What it is a collaboration, and collaboration is a superpower, and that's how you make things happen. So by bringing companies and organisations like TextureCan that are very focused on schools programmes and upskilling young people, by bringing that together with organisations and universities, that collaboration will have a much bigger impact than everybody independently trying to make a difference themselves.
Just very quickly, what we've found so far from the project is this has enabled us at a time, that's been very challenging for business post-pandemic and, towards the end of the pandemic. Because we've been really responding to their needs, really listening, it has strengthened our relationships and our footing in the city region in a way that it's blown me away, really, frankly. And from that, we are then seeing increased research collaboration. So it really has helped to feed that pipeline as well and get us more and more embedded in the city region. In terms of our schools programme, which is sort of our phase one, we've had over 70 organisations that want to work with us, and that's across both policy and industry. As I said, it's a springboard for other opportunities. Some of our schools, we've had over 500 pupils. In fact, I think as of this week, that's probably 700 because we've been very busy out in schools this week. And 70 volunteers from industry who are going out into the schools to co-deliver the content. So, the impact's quite tangible. Bigger challenge is going to be managing the long-term impact and tracking how our interventions have actually impacted the life choices and what have you of those beneficiaries. But we're working on that, and again, very welcome to hear any advice and guidance that everyone's got. But that's me for now, I think.
Thank you so much for that. It's an amazing project, and I for one can't wait to hear how it progresses and how the impact lands within the city. So now I'll invite all of the presenters up to the panel, and we have about half an hour, 25 minutes for questions. So I believe we have a roaming mic, and so any questions, please fire away.
I guess this is for the York people, but it's for anybody around. LEPs have been a useful partner to work with over many years, but their demise is imminent. What's your view on how to manage that and what impact it really will have?
I think at the moment it's about building those relationships. We haven't got a mic. Shall I shout?
Yeah, just people at the back.
I will do the shouting. Sorry. Is that better? Yes. Hello, can you all hear me now? Yeah, brilliant. I think it's really difficult at the moment, and it's about trying to navigate it in terms of some of those relationships as well, and working for us, it's with North Yorkshire Council, because that's where a lot of the, with devolution, a lot of the responsibility is going to lie. But for us as well, there's a move where a lot of those actual people will end up going into the council as well. So we can maintain those relationships. I think that's really important. But I think for all of us, as you say, with the demise of the LEPs in one way or another, and it all being new and uncertain, it's, for me personally, it's about maintaining those relationships and keeping those conversations going to make sure we're at the table. I don't know if anyone else has got any thoughts. No.
Hi everyone. Thanks for the presenting the project. It's quite inspirational. So I guess my question is sort of like an open question, because some of you have mentioned that, you know, those projects have arisen from a strategy from like core university, or because of, you know, change of like working with local communities. And I'm just wondering how supportive the core university system had been of actually, you know, supporting those programs, because I guess it's not only about funding, but it's also like working with local communities, working with SMEs. That means you need to be quite flexible as well on being that, you know, quick, reactive, and so on. So I'm just wondering how supportive the core university have been on those.
Does anyone else want to go first? I feel recently, with our new strategy and stuff, far more supported, I think, than we ever have done working in this way. I think it's still very difficult sometimes to be as agile and reactive as we would like, working in a university and working with SMEs in particular and larger organisations who want you to react very quickly, and then you're sort of scrabbling around in the university trying to find an academic to attend a meeting, and, you know, there's all that stuff. It is not as easy. But I do feel, in terms of the university senior management and the new structure, that in theory are far more supported to sort of push back more, I think is what I would say, and try and encourage more, and people are listening more. But yeah, it's not the easiest, and I'm not sure it ever will be completely, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and I might have hinted at that at my opening of the slide deck as to why are we looking at skills when I'm sat in a research-focused team. And I think, and I hope that the presentation's shown that actually it is just embedded in such a way that is then enabling us to draw down the research funding. It is still a really tricky line to tread internally. But, you know, I have managed to put in a business case because the positivity from the region has been such that, you know, I've put in a business case for a couple of posts to support this now. It was my side of desk project for quite a while. So we've now got proper support from the institution, but it's those blurred lines for us about where the activity should sit. And, you know, we're one of those teams where we really don't want to, you know, grow our numbers. That's not what we're about. But if we see an opportunity that isn't being met elsewhere in the institution, we will grab it. So yeah, it hasn't been straightforward, I think.
I think one of the challenges with training in CPD is also that I think we find quite a lot is it sits between research and teaching as well, because, you know, some of our exec ed programmes come from teaching and we've got training that comes from research. So we straddle those two things and they're across two Pro-Vice Chancellors' portfolios as well. So there's always that challenge that we always feel a bit different, I think, in training and trying to... Special. We're very special.
Thank you. Just to add a slightly different sort of take on that, with exec ed, okay, I'm looking at sort of the executive professional education, but there is a desire within the University of Exeter to diversify our income, to meet our civic responsibilities, to break down those barriers for the university campus to become more of a community campus, a community base. So I think it's not just necessarily the skills, but it's breaking down those barriers, widening participation and encouraging just through skills. It could then be that we open up our services and it just opens further opportunity for wider engagement with both individuals, schools, universities, businesses, and so on. So much broader context.
Thank you. I think it shows that once you've got the business case and you've got the buy-in, these projects work really well. And then it's about kind of demonstrating impact. So I kind of posed, before going back to the audience, a question about how you're measuring that impact and how you're demonstrating it to continue to kind of keep the cycle going and keep the funding up. Is there anyone that wants to comment on that?
So for the business case in getting my posts, they're 2-year funded posts, and by the end of that we have to become self-funding. So one of our big measures will be around how much income we can draw from both corporate partners, but also from, you know, policy, OFS type money, combined authority funding. We know this is a sweet spot for them at the moment, and it's how much of that we can draw down. But you know, again, as I said at the end of the presentation, in terms of the impact we're having in the city region, there's some quite simple metrics that we can do. The tricky point for us is that long-term life choices and chances that we're creating as a result. That's we're speaking to some of our academic colleagues, that experts in that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a big challenge for us. We measure the obvious things like income, like the number of businesses we work with, like the number of learners, how much we've delivered. Obviously, when we have specific funding contracts, there are always outputs associated with those. But what we really need to measure is that impact, that difference it's making, and we haven't fully got that right yet. We need to look over longer term. But it's also a problem for the university wider, which we can then tap into, because obviously we now have established ourselves as a university for public good. So we need to demonstrate and be able to show that we are doing public good. So it's we're at a point in time where we've got more support around how to do that evaluation, because it's a problem for the university at large, not just us. But I would say we're not fully there yet with it.
So impact is something which we are developing, and we're looking at our methodologies as to how we measure impact for our executive education programmes. Where we have custom and bespoke programmes, we can really work closely with our clients to look at the impact long term, to see how has that impacted on their business, how has that impacted on their clients, on their supply chain. So that aspect is quite easy. Then we have our open programmes such as the masterclass, where actually how do you measure the impact on one person when we've delivered the programme to 2,000? So we have to do a collective sort of a collection of testimonies and look at the action plans more broadly. And then from that impact, how can we then feed those into the impact case studies that support our REF as well? So that is a big piece of work that we're undertaking. We don't know all the answers right now, but we are really mindful that that is something that we do want to progress. And executive education, how do we embed that in our systems and processes more broadly across impact reporting and recording across the university?
Thank you. Yeah, it sounds like a big challenge, but I think I saw some other hands go up in the front row here. Faraba?
Thanks. So Danny's question, I did have a question about impact, but just expanding a bit more on that. The kind of telling the stories and that narrative, the REF case studies is all part of this. And I think I'm interested to know how you might think about or share those stories around, certainly about how you're reaching hard-to-reach groups, the impact being possibly greater, and what are your strategies around kind of accessing or getting these programs out to the non-usual suspects, I suppose.
So a big part of our programme is not just the school children, but their influencers. So, you know, parents, carers, community influencers, they have a huge impact on people's life choices as well. So we are working with community groups to really, because, you know, we're big Russell Group institution. We've got great research out in the community, but we don't necessarily always get to the right people, and it is challenging. And how do we reach those hard-to-reach groups? Well, somebody actually challenged me the other day and said, well, they're not the hard-to-reach ones, Vicky. You are. And I was like, God, yeah, that's exactly right. You know, if we're talking about getting in with communities that are spending a day a week in a queue for a food bank, like, do they really care about digital upskilling? How do we get into them? So it's working those really grassroots community groups and the schools themselves. So we've done some mapping in terms of sort of social deprivation and outcomes and things with our charity partner Tech She Can. So that the schools where we can, I mean, it's an open offer for any schools in Birmingham to join, but where we want to target most of our extra intervention will be those schools that struggle the most with that. So, yeah, it's going in with you, as I always say, I've got a toddler, listening ears, and, you know, being cognizant of the challenges that they have, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I guess from our perspective, the hard-to-reach groups are the SMEs. We've got such a high concentration of small and micro businesses. And I guess it's similar in some ways. It's about the listening. It's about the listening and understanding what their issues are. And there's a certain element also which is similar in terms of going to them. So not expecting them to always come to the university, but providing support in different ways and online, and going to networking in Selby, in Hull, not just sticking to York and sticking to our local area, but going to where the businesses are and listening and understanding.
Yeah, and I think for this sort of traditional hard to reach sort of needs and those furthest for employment and stuff, I think it's about working with partners. I think there's, in York and the city of York and North Yorkshire, there's some people doing that really well through various funded projects. So it's knowing what else is going on and joining in with them, and knowing where it's not for us to deliver. There's other people with better expertise in that area. So it's really about partnership for me, I think, that bit.
Perfect. Okay, I think there's one more question in the middle there. Orla?
Thank you. Really interesting discussions. This is a question for York. You mentioned about your graduate placements in SMEs. I'm wondering how that's funded, and if you have any detail on the destination of the graduates after. It was one of your videos.
Yeah, it's not graduate placement. So these were. The people in the project were already employed by the businesses,
okay.
But they were employed as graduates. And they weren't necessarily graduates from the University of York, they were graduates from wherever, but they were working in an SME in the region. So they've, I don't think we've tracked them long term. We're not enough down the line, but they were already in employment and have stayed in employment, and the feedback was excellent in terms of that. From both sides, really, from the sort of businesses in terms of being able to get the most from those people, because of those they got just such an additional level of support. They got like training in kind of softer skills. They got that network of other people in kind of similar situations. That kind of stuff that you would get if you're in a massive business and they'd employed 40 graduates in one go. But you're not. You're the one graduate in this tiny business, and it's your first job, and you're like, so that level of support and security and additional skills, and I think the level of confidence as well. So yeah, I think it was a great programme. It was European funded, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah.
So obviously that funding is gone, and we wait to see whether there's any possibilities in future funding.
Thank you. And one more question at the front here.
It goes back to funding, and it's not just in this set of activities, and we've seen it so many different types of program. Which I think you said you had 2 years, and you had to become sustainable in 2 years. I mean, which insert expletive there suggested that was possible. But seriously, we should maybe, because I think it's a really serious issue, because if this is really important, and I think it is, but let's leave the if in there, 2 years is delusional. Actually, what your real financial returns are and how you can make this truly sustainable is very unclear. And I wonder if, and I think you said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you were talking about then looking for essentially another pull-down funding source. But that's not sustainability in my simplistic book. Do you see mechanisms by which you could turn this into being something which, it's not going to be a great profit-making thing, but at least keeps the activity meaningfully moving? Because I have a suspicion the value of this will not be in the first 2 years. The value will be that you will have done it 7, 8, 10, 15, 20 years. And just your reflections on connecting the timeframes and sustainability there, please.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's 2.5 years, so that's fine. We're fine. And whilst we do have very lofty ambitions for this project. Let's be honest. But if we're not going to be ambitious, then we don't achieve anything. When I'm saying be self-funding by the end of that 2.5 years, it's to pay for the project staff needed and the interventions. I think we are looking at in its crudest sense, I guess it's a corporate sponsorship model whereby the employers will invest a pot of money, and that amounts TBC at this moment because it will be done on an individual basis, whereby they can draw down some immediate shorter-term talent through either access to our undergraduates as they come through, or our boot camp learners, because some of those are really hitting the sweet spot of the skill set and the diversity measures, because a lot of those boot camp learners come through to us through scholarships anyway, funded scholarships. So we think if they can invest and get that short-term skills, any money that we make that is a surplus, we're investing into the longer term play. So this schools outreach work and things like that is going to be very much its long-term talent pipeline generation. So that's how we're looking to kind of invest. And we've got a couple of ideas of things that we really, it's an innovation district. We want to innovate in skills creation. We want to try different things. Some things aren't going to work. The schools outreach was our first project. It is working. It's working really well. But what else can we do? And we've got some interesting things that we want to try, which I won't disclose yet because we're still formulating them. But that I think really will fund it for us in that respect. But I really think so. Yeah. Yeah. One hopes so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good challenge, and I think it's tricky. I think our approach is to have some kind of balanced portfolio in this. So think about skills across the board. So whether it's executive education or doing stuff in the community, the executive education, is more of the income generating end of it, and that allows you to do the other stuff. So it's not, I think we need to stop thinking so much in projects, but think about that bigger picture of skills and how we can generate income at one end and do the other stuff at the other end and get the university to allow us to do that.
But I guess my challenge to you, why is it even a university's responsibility to do that? On its own, I think the likes of PwC or HSBC, I don't know how many people you need, but 2 salaries from there make a lot of money on a permanent basis. Why should you bear all responsibility?
What, as a university? I mean, I think it's about partnership as well. A lot of that I wouldn't imagine doing entirely on our own either. You've got to do it in partnership, and I think doing it in partnership with the private sector is as sort of I said on my slide, I think is something we need to look at more as well. But it is a really good question because, especially at the University of York at the moment, because there's a big imperative to bring in income, but we're also a university for public good. So that creation of balance of how we bring in the income and do the good stuff is really hard, I think, in the skills arena.
In terms of income generation, executive education, like you said, is at that high end. But then we also have other programmes, such as the Help to Grow programme, where we work with SMEs, and we've got our European funded programmes that are coming to an end now. And it's how we utilise existing funds to support those. And I think your idea about actually let's just look at the portfolio and how do we distribute that evenly across the piece, I think that's really a really good provoking thought, most definitely. Good question.
Yeah, I think from the bigger picture, we need to make it everybody's problem, really, and we need everybody to engage. Yeah, and we need local authorities, and we need local business, and we need, everybody needs to play their part in getting the right funding to the right people. But thinking about funding and thinking about if the stars were to align, as a closing question for you all, if you were gifted 5 years worth of funding, and it just you had your moment to shine in the sun, my last question for you all is, what would you do with it?
Could have done with some prep for that one.
I've got an answer. Oh, she's got an answer. What we're going to do? What we're going to do with our funding next 5 years, we're going to focus on green skills because because I think it's the biggest issue in the world. Essentially, and it's where I think as universities we can make a massive difference. We can make a massive difference literally to the world and to everybody. So I think that's where I would focus if we had 5 years worth of funding. I would look at what our niche areas are where we can make a big difference in green skills at the same time as looking at how we can support small businesses to be greener and more sustainable and look at the whole piece.
And employ a lot more academics to deliver.
Yeah. So I'm basically going to fix the world. That's my... Anybody?
Yeah, as you say, preparation would have been helpful. Yeah, magic wand question, really, isn't it? So yeah, I definitely think there's a piece in there about the more altruistic part of the project and funding. You know, that really longer term stuff, the community outreach work in a more sustainable way, but also to your point around the SME piece. I mean, our project's been said very demand driven, and we've had a lot of large organisations move to the city of Birmingham, and you know, it has been as a result of that and their talent needs that it has driven this, let's be honest, because it has to be a scalable thing. But what we're really conscious of and what we want to work through within the project is how we support all businesses in the region with this project. So, you know, all of the micro businesses that would really struggle in a very competitive talent marketplace. You know, how do we attract a little four-man operation in Digbeth when you've got Goldman Sachs around the corner who are offering, you know, a six-figure salary for the same? You know, so how could we use that money to support that sort of activity as well?
I'm going to piggyback off your idea, Rebecca. But University of Exeter are just about to launch a Green Future Solutions Hub, which is basically a collective of all types of activity, from research, consultancy, right the way through to accredited skills. And what I'd like to do is actually bring it in for those lower levels as well. Let's engage with those needs. Let's get some of that community engagement going. Let's work with some of those community organisations to actually give a flow through. And I think you had a lovely diagram there which showed the skills levels from school age, NEETs, college, university, postgrad, SME leaders, so that we can actually have the full complement and promote green futures as a sustainable way going forward, with a clear succession path of skills development throughout.
Tell you what, we'll split the money. You do it in the south, we'll do it in the north. Yeah.
Team, there we go.
Perfect. It sounds like we're fixing the system to save the world, which is a great way to end. So, but yeah, please join us in thanking our panellists once again, and enjoy the rest of the conference.